So what we do is basically take a set of data. Like if you're going after one real estate market, I don't really recommend going after a handful at once. Focus on one, learn that market. So what you do is you aggregate property level data. You want to go after the cleanest data set available. So, and each market's a little different, but you go after the cleanest data set and you narrow down exactly what you're going after.
What is Agent Ignite? Are you wondering how you can make more money and create a competitive advantage for yourself and your clients in this ever competitive real estate industry? Agent Ignite is the key to furthering your knowledge, establishing your expertise, and positioning yourself as a go-to expert. They deliver new and relevant knowledge so you can expand your clientele, close more deals, and ultimately increase income. Each month features a new guest speaker who will deliver on what is most relevant for your business. As a member of DMAR's Market Trends Committee, an avid champion for building wealth through real estate, and a self-proclaimed data geek, Nicole will share market trends and commentary that will add value to you and your clients. Staying up to date on industry statistics, coupled with niche topics delivered by industry experts, will help you motivate your buyers and sellers and make you more money. Sign up for the next Agent Ignite session at theruthteam.com/events. This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is David Choi. David, man, he has an amazing story that you're going to hear today. You're going to be encouraged, but you're also going to learn a lot, and you're going to be able to find some deals. I think if you're willing to put the time in, David's going to give you some tips today that's going to help you to find your next deal. And your next commercial deal. And so, but he's a seasoned real estate professional and serial entrepreneur. He's the CEO of leverage companies and is actively purchasing, renovating, renting, and are selling over 100 properties a year. He's also one of the founding partners of Leverage Capital Ventures, a private mortgage origination company originating over $100+ million in real estate bridge financing in its first year. We don't even get into that today, but I did invite David back on the show because he has some skill sets I really want to dive into around even hiring people, but also building that team that functions without you. He's created some really good skill sets around that, and I love things like that. I know that helps all of us. But today, we're going to get into some direct to seller marketing stuff that, man, I bet that you, like I used to, and many other people believe is only for single family or small multis. Well, guess what? He's doing it for larger multifamily and syndicating these deals. And so you're going to learn a lot. And I hope this helps you to find your next deal. David, welcome to the show. I've enjoyed just chatting with you before we even started recording. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And you have some skill sets that I know our listeners are going to learn a lot from today. And so I'm really looking forward to it. So, but give us a little more about who David is, maybe why real estate, what were you doing before real estate? And then let's jump into, how you're finding deals and even syndicating some of these deals.
Yeah. Whitney, I got to say, it's a true honor to be on the show. I'm a bit of a fanboy of yours. Not a bit, I definitely am. I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and the work, the mission that you guys have, God's work, and helping families adopt children. I mean, what you and your wife are doing is just absolutely amazing. So keep that going.
Thank you so much.
No problem. A little bit about me. I am 27. I just turned 27 on February 10th. I started out in real estate when I was 19 years old, right? And so prior to real estate, I was your typical troubled kid. I was, oh man, I don't know if I should say it on the podcast, but I was a big troublemaker. I was getting in trouble with the law. I was in school and in college, and I was on the dean's list my freshman year. And unfortunately, the dean has two lists, one for the good students and one for the not so good students. And I really went and hit rock bottom when I was going into my sophomore year, and I had a big life-changing moment. My dad, who's a missionary, he said, "Dave, I'm going to bail you out, okay? But you're going to read the Bible with me every single day." And so I just, not knowing God, not having anyone in my life, I took on the word, and it just became so real to me. And I was reading the story of David, who I'm named after, And it was just his story in Psalms about his his struggles, right? His roller coaster life. I mean, this guy, like the youngest child in the lowest family and the lowest tribe, right? And God chose him, and because of his heart, he lifted him up. And that's kind of, I embraced that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give God everything I got. And I went from, again, like I graduated 10th in the bottom of my class in high school, barely got into college, academic probation, arrest records all of my life, right? And you look at me now, you would never think, right? But just struggled. And the moment I came to God, it was like, I don't want to do this prosperity gospel thing, but it was a prosperity gospel moment, right? I went and got a 4.0 GPA. He turned my life around, and I asked for wisdom. He gave it to me, and he said, you're going to do real estate. So long story short, got into real estate, never looked back. I did one free internship after the next, went on Bigger Pockets, went to every networking event, listened to every real estate podcast I could, read every real estate book I could. And yeah, about 4 years ago, I started my own business, partnered with Eric Pinecki, who was on your show just a little while ago. We started off with a goal in mind to go private equity. And but we didn't have the money. I mean, we had like $5,000 each to our names, and we knew we just needed to start getting the ball rolling, right? So started off like a lot of real estate investors do, locking up deals, wholesaling contracts, and making as much cash as possible to put that into real estate deals. And we bootstrapped the whole business, didn't pay ourselves for about 3 years, and it just snowballed into what we got now. And we're, this month, as of February 28th, we signed 21 contracts, new deals that we're acquiring, and it's just rolling now.
Incredible, David. I mean, yeah, I didn't know all that story about you, but I'm so grateful you shared that. I just, I think anybody that listens knows that the Lord is my Savior, and I'm so grateful that you just shared that, and I just think, man, it's what a testimony, right? For what the Lord has done in your life. I love hearing those stories. I love it when people are willing to share, right? I just think it benefits so many others. And so, man, I just thank you for being transparent about that. All of us come from a background, right, of some kind, and
Yep.
some may have encountered the law more than others, but still, we all, all struggled at some point, probably or another. But man, thank you for sharing. And so you then knew that real estate was a thing. I mean, that you were going to move into. Tell me though, like, what gave you the confidence to push into real estate? Was there something other than, you said real estate was a thing, but like, what was it? Just you knew wealth could be built there? Was it you wanted to have your own business? What was it that kind of spurred you into real estate though?
So I lived my life with the purpose of having fun up until 19. And then I realized that my parents gave everything they had to put me and my brother through college, that they would eventually need my brother and I to take care of them, right? So my mom, who was busting her tail 70, 80 hours a week, when I was 19 and I was asking God for wisdom, I came to the realization that I'm going to have to retire my mother, right? And I just started working hard for the first time. So I myself was working 70, 80 hours a week. And I said, oh, no, oh, Lord, this is not the life I want to live. And so I started Googling how to retire early. And I came across Bigger Pockets, started listening to some podcasts. And I said, man, there are people that come from the same struggle. They come from the same background, didn't come from money, and they're building massive wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. And I said, this is it. This is what I got to do. And I haven't looked back since.
No, that's incredible. I love that. Yeah, because it can be done, right? I mean, it can be done. I didn't come from a network of millionaires, or nobody in my family was accredited. I mean, nobody could invest even in our deals. I did not have a network of any kind. And so, yeah, you can do it. And I love that example, and just how the transparency of somebody like yourself. Like, I think that's so helpful to a listener who's, man, kind of on the fence. Like, can I really do this? Or I don't have these things already. I don't know the right people, or all those limiting beliefs, right? That are
You have no idea. I had someone just call me this weekend from high school, and he said, I've been thinking about real estate, but once I saw that you were doing it and you were doing it moderately successfully, I said, well, I could do it too, because listen, if you knew me from high school, you know that if I could do it, you could do it. It's really not rocket science.
Well, let's get into some of your superpowers or your skill sets that have helped you move so quickly. And before we started talking, you were talking about something that you have been so good at from the very beginning, and that's sourcing deals. And I want to talk about that specifically because you said you're really good at that. But two, man, that's a struggle for everyone right now, right? Is finding a deal, finding something that works. I know it's a struggle for us. I was just at a large conference this past weekend, and everybody there is talking about they can't find deals, right? And so let's talk a little bit about how you are finding deals and how you're making that contact with a seller that, that's, man, you're still able to make that transaction and it be worth your time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So starting off, I got in the game very young, didn't have any relationships. When brokers talked to me, they would hear a young kid on the phone and they didn't believe what I was saying. So I had to figure out how to source deals direct to sellers and not through my network. No one was going to I wouldn't trust me with a deal, right? So I had to figure out how to reach out to owners, ideally distressed real estate owners. And it started off with the 1 to 4 family. And that same data-driven approach, we copy and pasted into tons of different verticals and have had tons of success. One on the real estate lending side and now on the apartment side. So what we do is basically take a set of data. Like if you're going after one real estate market, I don't really recommend going after a handful at once. Focus on one, learn that market. So what you do is you aggregate property level data, and people like to go on CoStar, people like to go on Reonomy, tax records. There's a handful. There's PropStream that is pretty good, but you want to go after the cleanest data set available. So, and each market's a little different, but you go after the cleanest data set and you narrow down exactly what you're going after, right? And if you do enough stress testing, what you'll realize is that even the cleanest data isn't so clean. And so what we do is we take that data and we start layering it with, we call trigger data or motivation levels, right? So we have a little proprietary blend of what we know is going to be a motivated seller. We take tax liens, evictions, pendants, divorces, you name it. We're laying on like 300 different things, and we're scoring just how motivated someone is to sell their property. And that's how we budget our marketing spend, right? So whether it be direct mail, we literally have door knockers. We'll have someone go out, knock on a door, and talk to an owner and say, hey, we know we saw this property, we love it. We reached out to you over text, call, email, direct mail, couldn't get you. And that's why we're showing up. We really would love to make you an offer on your property. Are you in the market to sell? So depending on how motivated and what level that seller is at, we're going after him direct, and it works. There's a lot of ways to get deals, but that's been our bread and butter, and it's been pretty fruitful for us thus far.
Lionshare Bookkeeping believes the key to generating wealth is understanding where it comes from and where it needs to go. They provide bookkeeping and financial coaching exclusively to real estate investors, focusing on cash flow, strategy, and action. Go to lionsharebookkeeping.com/apartments to connect with them now. Tell me, because I want to go through some of those steps there that you laid out. Are you talked about like learning the market, and I wanted to ask, like, are you doing this just local to you, or are you doing it at a distance as well?
Yeah, so we have successfully entered other markets, but what we noticed was that when you start pulling into too many markets simultaneously, you're going to distract your team, you got to learn new valuations, you got to learn new neighborhoods within each submarket. And it makes it incredibly difficult for your acquisition team to sift out the not so good deals and focus on the good ones. So right now we're primarily focused on Northern New Jersey. We plan on really, really penetrating this market for the next year and then moving into another one. But right now it's just New Jersey. Okay. Tell me, like, if you're focusing on, like, obviously I think most of the listeners are obviously we're focusing on syndicating deals. Let's talk about like maybe some of your larger projects. Have those been different? Let's just say using this type of method
to find those deals versus, say, finding the single family homes or smaller multifamily? If your method to connecting with the seller has been different for your larger deals versus, say, a single family or smaller multifamily?
Oh, the messaging is completely different, right? Like you're going from empathetic, I'm here for you, I'm here to hold your hand, like we're working around. It's a heartfelt approach on the residential side. But when it comes to commercial apartments, all they want to know, they want to work with someone they like, number one, but they want to know that you're legitimate and that you could close. And so the messaging is completely different website, completely different everything. Our mailer pieces look completely different. So yeah, absolutely. It's empathetic approach to it.
Talk through a little bit some of those steps, like to find the larger properties, what's so specific, maybe even how you're finding those sellers, what you're doing, building that list. We all hear about building that list, and you talked about, finding the cleanest data, maybe some tips too on how you're finding cleaner data for those types of sellers and some of those steps of how you're marketing to them.
Yeah, sure. I'll give it to you guys clean. Like I don't, a lot of people want to withhold information. I'll tell you exactly what I do. So there's typically, depending on what state you're in and what county, there's going to be tax records, right? Excel, like downloadable Excel sheets, and they'll give you property class. Like it really depends on where you're looking, but New Jersey specifically will give you property codes and information like that. And what you want to do is stress test that against different list providers, right? So everyone's using the same list providers, but we found that New Jersey specific PropStream was the cleanest one, right? And so what we did was we took a data set, we said apartments. Okay, let's take a look at how many apartments they're saying that there is in New Jersey compared to the tax records, which is 100% accurate, right? Let's try it for another asset class. Let's see how accurate are there 50 units. If I'm putting a 50 unit minimum on PropStream, how many do they give me? Is that accurate? Yes or no? And we found that if you look for a minimum requirement on PropStream, it won't give you accurate information because then we stress tested against CoStar, found that CoStar had more 50 plus units than PropStream was indicating. So what you want to do before you go all in on spending thousands and thousands of dollars on aggregating, skip tracing, and sending out mailers. I mean, I spend like 20, 30,000 a month in marketing. Before you go ahead and go crazy, it would be prudent for you to figure out what data set is most accurate in your market and take that 20 hours, 30 hours of research before going crazy.
So finding the data set that's the most important in your market.
Yeah, absolutely. And
okay.
It's all market specific.
Sure.
It's market specific, definitely.
Maybe even helping us think through that. You talked about scoring the motivated seller, and maybe that'll help us think through the data that we're, pulling also. Give us some tips on scoring those sellers so we know we're, spending time on the right people first.
Yeah. I'm not coming up with anything special. I listened to just hundreds of podcasts and took bits and pieces of what everyone else had to say. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just doing it consistently, right? The best ones I found are, list pendants. So anytime there's a sell, at least they don't make 3 payments to the mortgage company or they don't pay their taxes, they get a notice of list pendants saying, hey, pay up or we're foreclosing. So those have been real good. Share sales, right? You're going to get few and far between, but anything going to auction that's still owned by the owner and hasn't been foreclosed on by the bank, those ones are super, super, super motivated. We take, inherited homes, inherited properties like probates, divorcees, evictions, like I said, absentee owners. There's so many different ways, but age, sure. Right? You want to take a look at age groups, demographics, if they live in state, out of state, if they have a degrading credit score. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. The key ones I would focus on and have there's pretty much, it's tax liens, list pendants, share sales. Focus on those ones right now. If you're just getting started, those ones, they have yielded me the highest returns.
Tell me about how you're connecting with that seller. You're mailing them some type of direct mail, you're calling them, you're texting, whatever you can do. Maybe go through some of those steps and even how that direct mail piece may be different for this, commercial size piece of property versus single family home.
You're really doing everything you can to get in touch with these gold mine properties, right? Like they have a high motivation to sell. You know that they've hit 3 or 4 different trigger data points, like they're in foreclosure, they're going to auction, they live out of state, and they're like 80 years old. Like, this person he wants to sell, or he doesn't even know that he's about to lose his property, right? So I haven't done this yet, but one of my friends, my mastermind, has sent literally a bag, like a ginormous bag of like paper filled cash, like Monopoly money, right? It's all yours. We want this property. Please give me a call. Like he starts small with a postcard to a bigger. But like, you got to get in touch. Eventually they will call. And the key is there's registered agents and then there's principal owners, right? And sometimes the registered agent and the principal owners are LLCs. Sometimes you gotta dig past that layer again, right? So out of 8,000, maybe 2,000 properties are registered agents and principal names are another LLC. So for that 2,000, those are the hard ones. This is the layer that no one else is going through, right? So for that layer, you go again, right? Who's the principal owner of the next level of LLCs? Who's the principal owner of the registered agent? And then now you have the direct mailing address. And so taking that extra step really gives you that juice that you need to
no doubt about it. It's doing things other people are not willing to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, that's how you're finding the deal, sounds like. But tell me about, how many times are you following up? How often? Yeah, like what's the sequence of that?
Yeah, on the calling side, I like to call them twice a month, right? I'm calling from a different number every time. I'm completely TCPA compliant, so don't come at me. I'm compliant. I'm doing a text message, right? Twice a month. I'm sending out a mailer once a month. And if all those layers don't work out, I'm doing pay-per-click, digital ads. I quite honestly, I'm not a digital ad guy. We have someone in my department that knows what she's doing. They're running that. We even have a person in our office who has built online billboards. So we just put it on their homeowner's address, and they'll get hit on while they're playing Angry Birds. They'll see leverage, it's depending on how hot that property is and how badly we want it. We'll put a couple bucks behind it. But yeah, it's mailers. You don't want to do more than once a month. I know people do once a week. Don't do that. Once a month is sufficient. Calling, you don't want to call them every day. They're going to hate you. Texting, keep it simple. A lot of times when people get in the marketing, direct to seller marketing space, they overcomplicate it. Just keep it simple, stupid. You just keep it really simple. You call them once a month. You text them once a month. You send them a mailer once a month. And if you really want them bad, go ahead and go find them and go knock on their door, right? And if you do that consistently enough, keyword, you're gonna get deals.
And scoring the properties probably helps with that too, right? I mean, the property that's going to score the highest, you might be willing to send that bag of money to, right? That's interesting. I don't know how much money was in that bag, but that would definitely get somebody's attention, right? What about some ratios, like number of mailers versus actual closes? Maybe what do you get now, or do you know, what should somebody expect?
Yeah. So I'll just say this, most people's bread and butter are mailers. My return on advertising dollars is my cold call. So I can speak on those numbers back of my hand. So if I make, let's say, if I connect with 100 people, and I'll connect with thousands and thousands of people a day. So if you make 100 calls, you're going to get 2 people that say they're interested in receiving an offer, 2 to 3, depending on how good your team is. And then for every 50 people that say, yeah, I'm interested in receiving an offer, you should get 1 contract signed. And then in New Jersey, there's attorney reviews. So depending on how tough the attorney is, we're batting about 70%. So if we get 10 deals signed after the attorneys get involved, we'll actually only walk away with 7. And then after we get 7, we'll do due diligence and we'll only close on about 5. So it's a big numbers game.
And that. So it's how many do we have to send? Right. Let's just,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And then when can we double it? Right. That's awesome. And there's, I'd love to have you back and maybe we talk about your team a little bit and building a team and some of the things you've done. One thing you mentioned before we started recording was like, building that team that functions without you. And that stands out to me. I think it stands out to most entrepreneurs, but I'd love to have you back and us talk about that specifically. Because some other things I noticed about you talked about building a good and growing or helping good people or growing and building good, a good company, right. With people, your employees and platforms, things like that.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, or do you have any predictions for the real estate market over the next 6 to 12 months?
I don't have a crystal ball, Whitney. Anyone that says they know it's going to happen, the people that are most confident they're going to say that the world's going to end, and they've been on the sidelines for 15 years. So I would say that at the institutional private equity real estate firms I work for, and the billionaire bosses I've talked to, I've called them and said, "What do you think?" They say, "Dave, you can't just sit on the sidelines, but what you could do is you could adjust your underwriting assumptions, right? If you previously modeled out a 50 basis point expansion last year, right, on a 3 to 5 year exit, bump it up to a 75 basis point spread, right? Just get more conservative, right? If you assume rent growth at X, right, take that down a point, right? If you assumed a 4.25% interest rate, bump that up on your exit, right? So just get way more conservative on all your assumptions. And if it still ties out to worst case scenario, your LPs receiving that 15 to 18% IRR target, go for it. But you just got to be a little bit more selective on what you're willing to do. When you're dealing with your friends and family money, it's a little bit more scary than dealing with your own money, right? So just get very, very, very conservative. That's all.
What's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
It's interesting. It's all friends and family. At this point, I really didn't like taking other people's money for the longest time. And my friends were begging me, like, let me get in. And we just started opening up the doors on the lending side and on the real estate side. So it's just been like the reputation of doing well by other people for as long as for as long as we've been around, and it's just friends and family. But one thing interesting that I've learned is from this one private equity company is they have a call center that I'm looking into. They built a call center targeting high net worth individuals, and they raised like $50 million in 4 years. So I mean, you could raise capital any way you want. It's just, if you run out of your own network, there's ways you could raise the capital.
That's interesting. What about some daily habits you're disciplined about that's helped you achieve this level of success, David?
It's the morning routine. Like I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning. I had a stomach virus. I still went to the gym, right? I still journaled my gratefulness. I still prayed. I still Wim Hof. I still took that ice cold shower. I still got here at 7 a.m. It's that morning routine. It's tough when you're an entrepreneur. You're working a lot of hours. You got to stay grateful. So that morning routine and just staying grateful. And I know you and your wife get up in the morning and spend time together. I think that's the key, that miracle morning.
It's been crucial for me and so many others I've interviewed. I just hope the listeners are thinking about that. If they've not spend a little time structuring some kind of morning routine for themselves. What about, David, how do you like to give back?
Man, that's one thing that I just love doing. My father's a missionary. So he's just been pushing God's work in my life since I was young, even when I was a little rascal. And when they say you got to manifest your future, I would manifest, I wouldn't think about all the money I would make when I set my monetary goals. I would see the amount of lives that God's going to change through the work that I do. Right. So it's been a huge driver of mine. Currently, we got a department called Leverage Cares, and we're serving the youth of Newark. And that's where we operate out of. Financial literacy, just sitting down and doing a couple hours of homework with some of the kids in the projects that they don't have anyone to help them. Instead of giving them the answers, be like, you go learn today. So just spending time with the youth and hopefully, you can't change every life, but if you could change one life, that has a domino effect. So Serving the youth of Newark is our current mission for
That's
our
awesome.
giving statements.
No, that's changing generations, right? You can't measure the amount of change that can be done when you're helping youth. And but David, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm grateful just for your transparency and your story and maybe some rough times in college and whatnot. And but man, the turnaround, right? I believe only the Lord can do. Right? I mean, it's just incredible. So just congratulations on your success and what's happened and how, appreciate you sharing all these details about how you're going direct to seller as well. And that, because I think there's a lot of myths even around that as far as, we're in commercial real estate and those things just don't work. Right. And you're just blowing that myth out of the water as well. So grateful to meet you and have you on the show. And I'd still like to have you back and let's talk about, that team building that you had talked about, that functions without you. I love things like that. We're trying to do the same thing. And so I'd love to talk about that on the show with you again sometime. But thank you again. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on, Whitney. I'm a fanboy of yours. You're an absolute killer. Guys, you could contact me, David Choi, DavidChoi.biz. That's my personal website. I actually have a podcast, Whitney. I would love to have you on. It would be an honor to have you on my podcast. And I know people don't usually do this, but you could reach out to me directly, 201-973-7029. Any way that I could add value to you guys, please feel free to give me a text, give me a call. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for being a loyal listener of the show. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. We want to help you become the passive investor you've always wanted to become, but also the operator you've always wanted to become. We want to be the number one resource for your real estate investing journey. But go to lifebridgecapital.com where you can start investing in real estate today.